Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now on G+, we are joined by Sleeping Warrior, Righteous Force, Paul, Chocolate Saiyan, Arwin, Alan and 10th Man. Very good to have you all.
Hello, hello.
Good morning. Hello. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hello, hello. We're also joined on Skype by Ranty and Quantum Eraser. Very good to have you both.
Yeah, real good, especially when I'm talking. I just get cut right off. I don't even know what that guy heard.
I'm on mute, mate. I'm on mute.
What the
I
hell?
I heard
does that have
everything
anything
you
to do with
said,
it?
John. I
Anyway,
heard everything.
we're also joined by a whole bunch of people in Discord, including Babs. Hello.
It happened twice so far. Nathan, wait till you get on my show, man. I'm gonna hook you up, dude.
Thanks, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, you and Chocolate.
So, we're live. Any signs of Earth curvature, Alan, on your travels? Or anybody else, for that matter?
No.
Earth curve. What's that?
That didn't sound like Alan.
No.
You couldn't hear the droll coming out of his mouth. Go ahead,
it's
Alan.
we were talking about previously on the pre-show. We were talking about traveling around, and 10th Man was asking about your drink in your plane, and you were like, I didn't experience any of that, so I don't know. But I'm asking if you have experienced anything Earth curve related.
I'm currently experiencing 98% humidity.
Take that as a no. Anybody else? Any signs of Earth curvature?
That was
No,
deep.
still haven't seen any cumulative drop of any kind. Just the rather linear concealment things in the distance.
It's like having a flashback with Alan here and you talking about cumulative drop. This is great. Just like the good old days.
Right. It's kind of a side note. I like to point at it sometimes. Like, hey, if there is an actual curve, then the nature of such curve would bring a cumulative aspect to however things are dropping away. And they don't. The rate seems to be linear over distance.
Would the cumulative, said correctly, cumulative aspect be under the optical slant?
Cumulative?
A double dip. You were here for that argument, if memory serves me correctly. Do you remember when Anthony or Sleeping Warrior had the picture of like a dome shape with mountains going over the top of it, and him talking about a double effect? No?
No, I can't remember that.
No, fair enough.
I know Tony likes a double pudding.
You just remember the people, don't you?
Any scientific evidence of gravity? Again,
Yeah.
directed at anybody?
Well, in order to have scientific evidence of something, first you need to know what it actually is.
That would help.
A little bit.
Anybody in Discord know what gravity is?
I'm Hudson. He's Hicks.
Why don't you put her in charge?
Seriously, anybody in gravity? Anybody know what gravity is? Alan's really looking for an explanation.
Gravity.
I thought Alan had an explanation for gravity.
I know Alan hasn't got an explanation
Are we
for
still-
gravity.
We still doing housekeeping?
We are doing
It's a big
housekeeping.
hand that are kicking. Sorry.
Have you got an answer to one of the housekeeping questions? That sounded promising.
I think.
No, no,
yeah.
I was wondering. I was wondering if we're still doing housekeeping because I wasn't done asking my question, but it's all good.
What was your question?
Coriolis.
Related to Coriolis.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Nope.
There you go.
Nope. There's your Coriolis, brother. Nope.
No, but I haven't even asked a question yet. My question is this, right? So, according to George Netanuk, he says that if a helicopter is hovering above
Kiwi.
Earth.
Do you want to start again? Please don't interrupt him, people. Go ahead, start
Everybody
again. Sorry.
go on mute, please, if possible. So, according to George Netanuk, if a helicopter is hovering above Earth, the reason that the helicopter doesn't end up in a different location is because the atmosphere is also moving with the Earth in lockstep.
Try not to interrupt. Okay.
I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous. I'm not saying I believe any of this stuff. I'm just making. I'm just trying to make an argument here.
Okay.
He also
So-
says a closed
Hold on,
to him,
hold
that-
on. The guy's not got to the end of his point yet. Go ahead.
Does he need to?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
according to
he
him-
does.
Oh, God.
Oh, God, I'm not going to get to the end of my point.
You are now. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so according to him, the atmosphere is moving in lockstep with the rotation of the Earth. So the Earth is rotating in an anti-clockwise direction. So that would mean that the atmosphere is also moving in an anti-clockwise direction. So his reasoning behind why the helicopter is moving with the atmosphere is because the helicopter is under controlled flight, meaning that it has an engine, unlike a balloon or a bullet that's under a different kind of flight. It's not being controlled by anything. So here's the question that I wanted to ask. If I have a kite on a string and the kite's in the sky, the kite's going to stay with me just because I'm holding the string, right? So based on the whole Earth model, I'm rotating, I'm holding the kite, so we're both rotating together in one frame. However, if I let go of the string, the kite's just going to do whatever it wants to. So if the atmosphere is moving with the Earth in the same anti-clockwise direction, that would mean that if I let go of the kite, it's also going to go in an anti-clockwise direction. But that's not what happens, because the wind isn't wind part of the atmosphere, and that's going in like all different types of directions. So what is wind not part of the atmosphere? How do they explain how that works?
Okay, I'll just try and, as concisely as I can, unpack what's being said. So when you say George is asserting that the Earth and atmosphere travel in lockstep, that is an assertion that you do not experience Coriolis effect. So he's saying the reason you don't see the plane deviate, well, don't see it deviate. So the reason we don't have Coriolis effect, so that's the first problem. He's detailing non-Coriolis effect, one reference frame. To have Coriolis, you've got to have two reference frames. The non-inertial spinning reference frame turning underneath the kite when you let go of it. So you rotate away from the kite, yeah? Well, that would be what
Right.
you need to have Coriolis. He's saying Earth and atmosphere travel as one. Now, besides the fact that's impossibility in terms of gas law and the multiple surface winds that you've pointed out, you know, gas is fundamentally unbonded to itself, let alone the ground beneath it. So no, it's not travelling with anything. It's free to move in any direction. But you've also got multiple directions of wind debunking that assertion. This is what I said on Ranty's show last night to him. Even though I said it, he still asserted the exact same nonsense the moment I left, which is to say Earth and atmosphere travel as one. Well, if Earth and atmosphere travel as one, as the people in the trenches arguing flat Earth assert, you don't have a Coriolis effect. The reason they assert Earth and atmosphere travel as one, which wouldn't give you a Coriolis effect, is because that's how we observe the world. Nothing's deviating. We don't observe any Coriolis effect. Why don't we observe any Coriolis effect? Well, because they assert, well, Earth and atmosphere travel as one. The reality is, Earth's not moving. We don't have a non-inertial spinning reference frame. So, because we don't have anything travelling away from it, no deviation observed, they say, oh, it's because it's travelling with the spinning reference frame, flying in the face of the assertions of people like Neil deGrasse Tyson. So that's the first bit unpacked in regards to how it should or shouldn't work with a single reference frame asserted when they say the Earth and atmosphere travel as one. They can't travel as one if it was spinning. That defies gas law and the multiple direction surface winds. And if it was, you wouldn't have a Coriolis effect. So it's just a way of double speaking it. I'll address the second part. I'm trying to keep this concise. I'm sorry if it's a bit long-winded. He's saying powered flight. Incorrect in terms of its removal of some apparent effect or deviation caused by Coriolis. If you have a powered drone in your hand on a roundabout and you push the up stick on the remote control and let it hover in a stationary position, given a tiny bit of movement that it may have, you know, let's pretend it's really slick and all gyroed up, well, that will stay pretty much stationary, but it will appear to get closer and come further away, closer and further, as you rotate underneath. So to have a Coriolis effect on Earth, you need you to rotate underneath, like you rotating under the drone with the roundabout. It's not actually flying towards you and then flying away from you, it's staying in one place. It seems to get closer and further away because you are getting closer and further away as you rotate underneath. So to have Earth-based Coriolis effect, you need the Earth to rotate underneath. And George is saying, Earth doesn't rotate underneath. In fact, it all rotates as one reference frame, no Coriolis. So this is just, it's a fairly labour-intensive process to even slightly concisely unpack their doublespeak. They need to have something analogous to what actually takes place, no deviation, no Earth turning under planes, no 1.5 hour flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA. They don't see that. Why don't they see it on their spinning Earth? Well, because it's only one reference frame. Well, they're trying to have an argument when they're talking about reference frames in regards to Coriolis, and Coriolis is two reference frames. But they'll argue to have one all day long, flying in the face of gas law.
Yeah,
You could catch
and I
them in
agree with that.
contradictions.
That in order to have the Coriolis effect, you need to have two spinning frames of reference. But
Not spinning.
as
Not
far as
spinning.
your example with a drone,
No,
if
that's
a drone
wrong.
is an auto,
Not correct. So in the roundabout example,
correct.
the inertial reference frame, the frame of reference that the drone travels into, so it's travelling in a straight line up in the inertial reference frame. But in my example, it just stops in the inertial reference frame. But you, on the non-inertial spinning reference frame, are rotating underneath. It's not that the air that the drone is sat in, pretty much stationary, is rotating. It's not. That's just the air. Yeah, you could argue there's some wind moving it off its position. That would be true also, but it doesn't change that to have Coriolis, you've got a non-inertial rotating reference frame underneath it, causing an apparent deviation. The Coriolis effect itself is that apparent deviation. The drone appearing to come closer and then get further away as you rotate underneath, that's the Coriolis effect. It's seeming to fly closer and fly away again. It's not actually flying towards you and flying away from you. You're getting closer to it and further away from it as it stays in one position. Well, that effect that seems to be happening, it's seeming to move, is you moving underneath. That's Coriolis. And they're doing away with the very nature of what Coriolis requires to be in effect by saying there's only one reference frame. Oh, it all travels as one. Well, that's analogous to saying the atmosphere travels along with the roundabout. So you launch your helicopter off your hand, and lo and behold, it travels with the roundabout. That's what he's saying. Earth and atmosphere travel as one. So the air travels with the roundabout. So you don't see the drone drifting in and drifting out because the air is travelling with the roundabout. That's what George is saying. Well, hold on. What do you mean we don't see it drifting in and out? It still seems like it's directly above me. It's staying essentially stationary from my position on a spinning reference frame. That flies in the face of Coriolis. You're supposed to see it deviating because you rotate underneath, and they're saying you're on your roundabout, you launch your drone, and it stays 3 inches in front of your face as you're on a roundabout. No, that's what they're arguing for, because we don't see any Coriolis effect on Earth. There isn't any.
No, there isn't. And yeah, I get your point now completely. So the Earth is moving and the atmosphere is not moving. That's the only way that the Coriolis effect is going to work. But do we know for sure that a drone that's hovering
oh my God.
is going to...
I think you're getting a minor correction. Go ahead, Kiwi.
No, you keep droning on and on and on. Keep your points concise to the point. A couple sentences, then stop.
Sorry.
Right?
But I only got like one sentence out.
Okay. The atmosphere is not moving with the Earth. That doesn't mean it's not moving. There's like winds and stuff there.
Yeah.
Right? It's just not moving with the Earth.
That's part of what I was saying.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
But
Sorry.
do we know that a drone that's hovering over Earth is just going to stay in one position? Like, has anyone ever tried that before? What is that based on?
Yeah.
Really?
My wife used to fly helicopters. Yes, definitely. That's all what it'll do. You just hover and the Earth doesn't rotate underneath the helicopter. Because if it did, your flight from Charlotte, North Carolina would only take an hour and a half because the continent is moving underneath you as you travel over it. But that doesn't happen.
Right. I heard from somewhere that drones use GPS coordinates when they're flying. So when it's hovering, how is it staying in one position? Is it using GPS coordinates, or is it just flying on its own accord?
Can you define hovering for us?
That would be floating in one location.
Right.
That's right. Thank you.
But no, I think the guy's
But
saying
how is
that,
it doing that though?
I think what he's saying is you could still have a non-inertial and inertial reference frame if the helicopter is continually adjusting its position based on GPS data. So although it appears to be in one position, it's actually continually flying along with the Earth at the rate the Earth is flying. So you're essentially saying, hold on, that would imply that your cheap $5, or let's even say it's a $200 drone, right? It's going to fly up and then on the equator keep up with 1,000-mile-an-hour spin. That's what that implies.
No, you just turn the GPS
What's been
off.
asserted. I'm not
Just
saying
turn
that
the
I
GPS
agree
off.
with it.
I know you're not making that. I realise you're not
asserted.
making the assertion. I'm taking apart the implication thereof, not that you're making it. I get that. Nothing personal. Sorry, Ranty, what did you say? Just turn the GPS off.
Yeah, just turn the GPS off. I mean, ultimately, there's a lot of drones out there that don't have GPS. You can buy cheap ones for £100. They don't have GPS on them.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying when I was like, cheap one.
Even get a toy helicopter. You know those little cheap toy ones that remote control things for like £30 or something from B&M Bargains? Get one of them. That doesn't have GPS on it. And it'll hover.
Right. Okay.
Sure. I mean, I don't know if like low-grade helicopters from the 1950s had anything like Lorenz attached to it, maybe. But it's but nevertheless, hovering is definitely.
I'm curious to know if anyone's actually tried it with a low-end drone that doesn't have GPS on it.
I've not done this, so I will confess. Right, I've got no cowbell for that.
I've done something. Let me tell what I've done. I had a little toy. It was a helicopter, battery operated with a remote control. Real small. So I took it outside and made it hover in one place. Then this brisk wind came and just thrashed it. What do you say for that? I'm hovering and then the wind comes and knocks it out of position, but I'm hovering in one place. I didn't touch the controls to make it do that.
What direction did it go in?
The direction of the wind.
Okay, so that just proves that the wind or the atmosphere is moving in multiple directions. It's not just moving in one direction like George claimed. I asked which direction it went in just to see if it corresponds with what direction the atmosphere is supposed to be moving in.
West to east. is the way the Earth is spinning according to them. So it would have to go west to east.
Did it
Yeah,
go in
and
an
then-
eastward direction? Or
I
did
It
just
would
said
have
that,
to go.
west to
It
east.
would have to
Whichever
go from
direction.
west to east, like he said. I got another question. When you watch the weather, I just watched the weather the other day, and I seen this low pressure area. Right, it was moving from east to west. How you explain that?
Right.
Sorry,
You can't.
that's right.
You can if it's
can't.
being carried along. But the end of that argument is that to assert that it's being carried along in any shape or capacity is to assert that you don't have Coriolis effect, which flies in the face of their rhetoric. Their priests declare they do have Coriolis effect. That would be a deviation because the Earth rotates underneath. So Neil deGrasse Tyson's tweet about that field goal going in because the Earth rotated underneath. That's Coriolis effect. 2 reference frames. So I don't give a crap what some batshit crazy senile old twat like George Netanyahu says about Coriolis. The guy at a fundamental level is insane. He doesn't understand Coriolis. His assertions that the Earth and atmosphere travel as one isn't possible. And if it was, you wouldn't have Coriolis effect.
Right. It's even more
No,
moronic
it's
on a
not
fundamental
possible.
level. What's the behavior of gases?
It's free to
That
move in
is-
all directions, unbonded, not attached to itself, not attached to the ground, free to move in all directions randomly.
So they're
I
holding.
think the point
two
that George was
mutually
trying to make
exclusive
is that
truths.
the gases are being held to Earth by gravity. So because of that gravitational force, that's what's causing the atmosphere to move with
son,
the Earth in the
listen.
same direction.
Number one, you're invoking gravity. Number two, we just told you what gas behavior was. And any idiot can walk outside. You can see clouds moving in different directions at different levels of the atmosphere. I mean, this is. I'm getting so frustrated with this that
No, he
It
just,
should
Yeah,
he
but
be-
just
these
said
are
it.
arguments
Chris,
that the ballers are
the Earth's
making.
not- the
They're
Earth's
saying
not
that
spinning.
yeah, since
the
2015,
gravity is what's
and we
keeping
have
the
to go
atmosphere
over
to-
and over and over them, right?
P. Mars,
Are
you
you-
just said it, P. Mars. You said that
He's-
George says
P.
the atmosphere goes with the Earth, and since the Earth goes in their model, west to east, then all the winds would blow west to east. And QE just said that all you got to do is watch the Weather Channel and see that all the winds don't go west to east. So you got your answer right there.
Right, I'm not P Mars, by the way.
Wind and water.
He's playing devil's
Wind and
advocate.
water
Can,
have
can everyone stop
Coriolis,
giving
not
this
the
guy
planet.
such a hard time, right? He's conveying the baller rhetoric back to us. What he's up against, presumably in some of the trench somewhere, right? So just stop giving him such a hard time.
Yeah, and he's not P. Mars either.
He's cool. He's a
Yeah, that's
pilot.
fine. He's not P. Mars either.
And he's
So
definitely
I do-
not P. Mars.
I just want to. Okay,
Well,
whoever he
I'm
is,
not,
it doesn't
I'm not
matter,
P
right?
Mars.
So,
I do sound like P Mars, but I'm not P Mars.
you don't sound like P Mars
Just
to
for
me.
the record.
No,
okay,
no, no.
Chris, I know who you are. You're
Maybe.
not P. Mars. I got you.
Sure. I
All
just
right.
want to
You're
unpack
good.
this
Gotcha,
though,
Nathan.
just one more time. So, in terms of the Coriolis effect, it does not matter what the fundy globeheads in the trenches are asserting. In this case, George Netanyahu. He is flying in the face of the standard rhetoric. So, regardless of where he places himself in the hierarchy of globe belief, Neil deGrasse Tyson asserts the standard official line in regards to what Earth must have to demonstrate Coriolis effect. Now, shock horror, he understands what is necessitated to have Coriolis effect. That would be Neil deGrasse Tyson. Now, that's to say that he understands the necessary ingredients that must be displayed in his tweet to have Coriolis on Earth. Now, what is needed, the necessary ingredients for Earth-based Coriolis effect? Coriolis effect being an absolutely real demonstrable effect that you can demonstrate with a ball and a roundabout simply by throwing it and seeing it seem to curve away from you because you rotate underneath. Now, Neil deGrasse Tyson makes it very plain. The ball goes through the goal because the Earth rotates underneath. So the ball is travelling seemingly in a straight line, but from your position on the ground rotating underneath the ball, you see it curve to the right. Well, it's curving not because the ball actually takes a curved trajectory, but because you rotate underneath. So that's what you need to have Coriolis effect, as made plain by Neil deGrasse Tyson. Now the dicks and the senile old gits and the people who are in the trenches of flat Earth who say gravity carries the atmosphere along, well, they don't understand number one gas law. It cannot be dragged along. It's free to move in all directions independently, unbonded. So no, it's not being dragged along. Secondly, if it was, then it would completely contradict Neil deGrasse Tyson's explanation of Earth-based Coriolis, which does fall in line with the necessary ingredients to have Coriolis, even though his incorrect assertion isn't demonstrating planes deviating with Earth turning underneath like they do with his football example. So we can still debunk Neil deGrasse Tyson's assertion, but Neil deGrasse Tyson is asserting what you'd need to have Earth-based Coriolis. Earth turning underneath the atmosphere. The ball is in the inertial reference frame. The Earth is the non-inertial reference frame turning underneath in that example. So George, with his stupid idiocy, saying they go as one, well, that flies in the face of the official rhetoric and demonstrates he doesn't understand Coriolis. Because if they were, you would not have Coriolis. So just understand, the people in the trenches are dumb. Yeah, you chuck out the cannon fodder. That's what George is. Pump out some bullshit, George, and you get shot in the face by people who do understand Coriolis. And contradicted by the priests. They're not going to come and rescue him. They're not going to change how gravity works, and absolutely does not change gas law. You know, give us a demonstration of some gravity carrying along gas with something. Yeah, you show me that with a flatbed truck. Yeah, right. Of course that's never going to happen. But they'll keep asserting it, George, contradicting the high priests of heliocentrism, that would be Neil deGrasse Tyson, with his nonsense that defies gas law of Earth and atmosphere travelling as one. Not giving you Coriolis effect. Giving you no Coriolis effect. So George saying this, oh, Earth and atmosphere travel as one. The next words out of your mouth, if you're a flat earther talking to that fundamentalist religious zealot, is that would not give you Coriolis effect. That's what you say. What, Earth and atmosphere travel as one? Well, you wouldn't have a Coriolis effect then, George. Or whoever else asserts Earth and atmosphere travel as one.
I understand the nature of gases and how that wouldn't make any logical sense on their model. But you know what they're going to say. They're just going to say gravity is what's keeping the atmosphere locked to the Earth's rotation, just like gravity is keeping the atmosphere from going into the low pressure system, that's space. That's all they're going to say.
And I would concede it.
That's all
last time it happened yesterday, and I said you can have Einsteinian and Newtonian at 200% effect. You can have them both. It's Christmas, Fundy. Have them both. Now, does that change the nature of gas in any way, shape, or form? No. And you won't ever demonstrate anything changing that principle of gas being unbonded and free to expand in all directions. That's never going to change. Shout out to Tina Baker for the super chat. Says 4 more hours. Thank you very much for the super chat, Tina.
4 more hours.
So yeah, he's not going to get around it. Just one last time to make the conclusion. That argument that they're making for gravity pulling the atmosphere with Earth would leave them with no Coriolis effect. So they're essentially arguing for a lack of Coriolis effect when they make that nonsense claim. Earth and atmosphere travel as one. Therefore, we don't have a Coriolis effect. That's essentially what they're saying. So what's that, George? We don't have a Coriolis effect.
No, we do. He'll contradict himself with every other statement, like they all do. This is incoherent third grader stuff, guys. We all know it. So who cares what they say? Just expose their nonsense step by step like Nathan just did. Thanks.
Right. Okay, one more thing. Why do we have gas pressure gradients? Is it something related to density?
Because we live in a closed dynamic system.
Yeah, but according to the nature of gases, they're free to move in any direction.
They do.
In homogeneous manner. So I'm just wondering why we have gradients if the gases are free to move.
I just told you that.
Do you want me to expand on what QE just said?
Please.
Yeah.
I'm asking the other dude, Babs. So
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
The gases are produced at ground level, so the highest concentration is at ground level.
Oh, yeah, I remember hearing this before. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. And they're getting cycled, which is why they're not. The concentration is constantly changing.
And it fails to answer the question, how do you have gas pressure without a container? That doesn't answer. That's not an answer to the question, even if they state that. Why? Because gas pressure gradients is delta X. Our question is about where do you get X? So you must have X before you have delta X.
Still need the container.
The gradient is never our question. Gradient is always theirs.
Yeah, it's a feeble red herring fallacy.
Yeah. It all goes back to gravity at the end of the day. If we have pressure, it's because the gravity is causing the pressure.
Gravity doesn't have, even if gravity existed, and it doesn't, that it still would have no effect over entropy, over the second law of thermodynamics. Not a friggin' chance. Thanks.
Yeah, there's quite a few demonstrations, again, done from friendlies. So Dr. John Dee's done two demonstrations now. One that he did, which was perfectly acceptable, but he'd missed a decimal place or something, and missed out one specific definition of a type of pressure. I think he missed out torr or something like that, one of the arbitrary assignments of values. So he did a second of exactly the same, where he's just showing how gas works. And he's obviously, again, he doesn't say this, but, where I say jokingly, you can have your fundy gravity at 200%. He's saying, obviously, I'm at ground level. If you want to assume gravity, well, then here it is in full effect. It's not changing the way this gas works.
Well, bring Toady on, and he can give us his plasma ball story. Friggin' toe tag clown.
Nathan, can I get a discussion going on controlled flight? I think it's Achilles heel for them.
Sure.
So if the Earth is spinning west to east, as they say, or rotating, however they want us to say it, wouldn't controlled flight prove it? Hovering in one place.
Yes.
So then why do they say that a bullet traveling at speed of sound, a small caliber, and a jet who breaks Mach 1 traveling at the speed of sound, that they're different?
Because they're full of shit.
Because they're morons.
Oh, no, I'll tell you why. Because one has got a significantly reduced hang time, and you're not going to see any long-term effects. And you can assert that, like a ball with Neil deGrasse Tyson, a bullet, 5 seconds tops hang time? Well, unless you're firing it straight up in the air, but you know what I mean. A very short hang time. Same with the ball, right? 5 seconds hang time. Well, you're not really going to see any massive effects of that for anybody to notice. But you might see a small deviation that they can allege is because the Earth rotates underneath. Now, when it comes to a plane, you've got a very, 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 very long hang time. So you should see massive effects of Coriolis, but you don't. Oh, so they attribute that to the engine.
Yes, that's my
man. Remember that time that Brenda and I were arguing to the point where she basically was arguing that a glider is powered flight?
I do remember.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, that was where I was going. I was going to go there. Thank you for going there first. So if the Earth, as you say so precisely, is spinning underneath anything, then it's spinning underneath a glider, a powered flight, and a bullet. You're not the Earth doesn't change its mind for the objects. It's spinning regardless.
That's right. If the Earth turns underneath a ball and a bullet, then the Earth turns underneath a hand glider, a helicopter, and an aeroplane. And it also rotates underneath you if you jump in the air.
As Rumpus admitted, at the equator, if he was to walk 5 miles an hour, he would experience Earth-based Coriolis.
Yeah, he's, again, fundamentally retarded because he's walking on the non-inertial reference frame. So what he's describing is an observation of a non-force as something travels through an inertial reference frame. But he has the item travelling as him, and he's not leaving the non-inertial reference frame. So it's like me saying, I'm on a roundabout, and it's got no rails, I can walk around in a circle. And as I walk around in a circle on the spinning reference frame, I observe my own apparent deviation. It's absolute nonsense.
It is. But my point is that the controlled flight, the very thing that they say in the manner they do, is actually going to work against them. Because if I say, look, I shoot guns here on my property and I never adjust for Coriolis, and you're telling me the Earth is spinning underneath the bullet, and it's a very short duration. But if I get on a helicopter or a plane or a glider, and it's a longer duration of time while it's in the atmosphere, while the Earth is spinning underneath, because the Earth doesn't decide what not to spin under, that would be controlled flight would prove your Coriolis. But you're saying it doesn't. It's contradictory because the controlled flight could say, I want to hover at this place and watch the Earth move underneath me, whereas we can't do that with the bullet.
You'd never ever
it's
have.
happening to the bullet.
You'd never have an eastbound flight. That would never ever happen, because it would be so inefficient to fight the Earth turn that no one would ever travel that way. It would be far more efficient to always go the other way.
But you can't even keep up.
Nathan.
If you're flying at 500 miles an hour and the Earth is spinning at 860 underneath you, LAX to Charlotte, they're going faster than your flight.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You'd never go east. There'd be no point.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you could go up high enough on the reified ball, and it might be just about worth it. But on the whole, there's no point going east. Go west.
Hey, Nathan.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Very well.
I thought I had this talk with you before about Coriolis, but maybe it didn't take. Yeah. I think that there might be a fundamental flaw in the way in which you're describing Coriolis right now.
Yeah,
Because
you're
it's not
assuming the Earth's
purely
spinning and it's
about
not.
the Earth rotating beneath you.
You think it's not the Earth rotating beneath you?
No, I said it's not purely just the Earth rotating beneath you. When
Oh,
you're
what else is
describing,
it then,
you're right.
Kershaw?
What you said. You're right. What you said about the reference frame. That he's not leaving the reference frame. That is the Earth rotating, but that's not the reference frame that Coriolis describes. They're describing the different latitudes in which the Earth is spinning at different tangential velocities. And what that does
Right.
is it causes you to have an error if you were to shoot a ballistic in the north or south direction.
Right.
And
so you're
planes
shorting.
and other powered flights also have this flaw. There is a slight error in the same flight. The only difference is a powered flight is just that, it's powered. And so as it's heading, to New York from LA or Texas to, Canada, whatever errors the Coriolis is going to give it, it's still a powered flight. So it's constantly making corrections the whole time. So it's probably not even something that it might even show up.
What's it correcting for?
The ballistic is not going to experience.
What's it correcting
flight,
for?
And it will have an error if shot.
What's it correcting for? What's it correcting for?
For the difference in the tangential velocity. So we used a hypothetical 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, just because I don't have the number on me, and it was going to somewhere where it was 990 miles per hour, somewhere north of there. That was its ending point. That point in which it traveled, so when it leaves the Earth, it's also going 1,000 miles per hour eastward, and so is the Earth. It's not going to stop doing that.
Oh, well, then there's no Coriolis effect.
Target.
Then there's no Coriolis effect.
That was moving slower.
There's no Coriolis effect then, if that's the case. If it's travelling at the same rate as the non-inertial reference frame, then there is no Coriolis effect.
No, it is when it leaves.
No. No, really,
When
no.
the target, when it hits the target was moving slower.
So that would be that it's in a separate reference frame then. So not in the same reference frame. If it's deviating because the Earth is rotating underneath, then it's not maintaining the tangential velocity. It's traveling in a separate reference frame.
No, it retains that speed.
Well, then it
So
wouldn't
1,000 miles
deviate.
per
Well, then
hour,
it
it's
wouldn't
not gonna
deviate.
lose.
Then there
I
wouldn't be a...
distinctly
Let me-
remembering
Arwin.
Nathan and Kosho having this exact conversation before like this.
Yeah, then it wouldn't deviate. Then it would not... Then it wouldn't deviate.
No, that's the problem, is that nothing deviated. The Earth was spinning. The speed was different when it started. The speed is different where the target is. And so just because of that difference there, when it's headed to that target, the Earth, it moves a little bit slower. So the bullet or the ballistic, whatever, is going to veer slightly to the east, if I'm correct.
Well, it's not. The Earth's not going to go slower. That's nonsense.
No, it's not. Well, I mean, you understand our model dictates that the Earth goes, spins
Oh. Oh my
rotates
god,
at
I'm
different
so
rates,
sorry for you. That
depending
doesn't
on
make
your
any
latitude.
sense.
Kosho, are you saying that if the plane was going west,
hold on.
Are you saying when the plane was going west, that it would be flying backwards 1,000 miles an hour at the equator?
No, that is also another huge misunderstanding, I suppose, or maybe just miscommunication.
Well, you just said it going east. It
So
does.
it retains the tangential velocity.
Yes, I'm not talking about something I said though. This is something that you guys. have been
Sorry,
saying the
I'm
whole
just going to
show.
clarify what you said. You said it retains the tangential velocity. Well, if the tangential velocity is east at 1,000 miles an hour, that by definition means that the plane takes off, travelling west, and is actually travelling with the tangential velocity of 1,000 miles an hour backwards. That's what it implies.
Yeah, I suppose so.
You fucking retard. You think Earth has got the situation where planes take off going 1,000 miles backwards? You think that, do you stupid
Yeah, that's
idiot?
what I'm trying to clear up for you, Kyle.
No, don't clear it up for us. You don't need to say anything more, you stupid idiot. You think planes take off going backwards at 1,000 miles an hour?
I'm trying to clear this up for you because
You don't need to clear anything up. Planes don't go backwards at 1,000 miles an hour because they've picked up the tangential velocity of a model that you reify. That doesn't happen.
No, see what happens when you're...
No, it does not happen. Don't not no see. Yeah, what you've asserted about it retaining tangential velocity implies planes going backwards at that tangential velocity, 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, backwards if they're travelling
And what's
west.
the Earth doing
It's
at the
absolutely
same time?
ludicrous. You're not going to say, yeah, but, yeah, that doesn't happen though, mate.
It's clear to anyone listening that you clearly misunderstand this.
I understand that if you're retaining the tangential velocity of a spinning ball reified into existence by fundies, that means, by definition, if you take off travelling west, that you will retain the 1,000 miles an hour of velocity going backwards.
Yeah, but what's the Earth...
Yeah, but... So, no, that doesn't happen, you fundy fuckwit. Not yeah, but... Yeah, but I'll double speak you around the fact that this is total nonsense.
It's not nonsense.
Yeah, but... Yeah, it is nonsense. Planes aren't taking off going backwards, Fundy. You're a moron.
It's not backwards unless...
Yeah, it is. You said it retains the tangential velocity. In your example, it's going backwards.
And where's the Earth moving at that same time?
It's not, you stupid Fundy retard. Earth doesn't move in the slightest. We're not moving a smegging inch. There's no demonstrable Coriolis effect. Your assertion that planes take off with the tangential velocity of 1,000 miles an hour backwards when taking off travelling west would imply there's no Coriolis effect.
But hold on, let me interject here.
Sure, but then you'd have to let me clear this up.
Clear what up? If you're saying it retains the tangential velocity of the non-inertial reference frame, there is no Coriolis effect.
Yep. It's the null.
Let me speak here.
The null.
Right?
I'm talking to Kosho. It's the point where I hand him his ass, guy who's trying to bail him out. No, if it retains tangential velocity of the Earth, two problems. One, you've got planes travelling backwards at 1,000 miles an hour when they travel west at the equator. Number two, the tangential velocity of Earth, yeah, travelling with the atmosphere, doesn't give you a Coriolis effect.
Nathan, if you're not going to let me clear it up, then you're never going to get it.
Clear what up? What I've just stated is absolutely fact. And you've said, yeah, but, and then tried to double speak your way around it, immediately being obfuscated by me. I'm not going to let you go, yeah, but when you're saying tangential velocity is retained, that would mean the plane has the velocity of Earth attached to it when it takes off going west, and is going 1,000 miles an hour backwards.
I know you said that about 5 times, Nathan.
Yeah, because it's nonsense. And when I point out that if you've retained tangential velocity, that's what you're doing, and make you concede it, you go, yeah, but, and try and whistle past it like it's somehow acceptable. If
Nathan,
you're retaining tangential velocity, there's no Coriolis effect to observe.
Right, let me speak here, right? I'm ex-military, and I have a very good friend who is a sniper in the military, yeah? And he stated to me, because I asked him, yeah?
You asked him if he got trained with it, and he said no, he never got trained with Coriolis. That's great. I have to explain this to Nathan.
Shut up, Kosho. He's talking. He's in the middle of fucking talking, Kosho. Shut your mouth.
After a certain distance, if he doesn't take into consideration the Coriolis effect, he will miss his target every single time. Now, British snipers are some of the best in the world, and they are trained to take into consideration the Coriolis effect. Now, Nathan, if you're sitting there telling me that Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's got PhDs and doctorates and master's degrees and everything else, is telling lies, my sniper friend and all the other snipers in the UK military are telling lies, but yet you have no accreditation to your name whatsoever, are telling me that you're telling the truth and these people are telling lies.
Okay, let's
you do
just
realise
address
that.
Bear with me. I'll just try and address that.
There are plenty of military.
Oh, maybe I won't get an opportunity to. So,
anecdotal evidence is not strong.
Yeah, it is mate's evidence, yeah. Nevertheless, regardless of your mate's assertion, your mate is implying, and Neil deGrasse Tyson is implying, that as the bullet or the ball travel through the air, the Earth rotates underneath. If the Earth rotates underneath a bullet, as you're implying your mate's telling you, then it also rotates underneath an aeroplane and a helicopter. Do you understand?
Just because you're dumb enough not to understand how the whole system works, that's not our problem. That's your problem. That's your issue.
Not a rebuttal.
But you're relying on anecdotal evidence.
Coriolis effect is not subjective to the type of item. Everything has it.
Can I just point out? Can I just point out that reliance on anecdotal evidence in the absence of real evidence
is somebody else is trying to address you, my friend. Somebody else is trying to address you. Pound says this isn't worth letting him speak.
Miles an hour, and I cannot throw harder than 80 miles an hour. Yeah, that's basically what you're saying.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Can I just respectfully point out to our friend in Discord that your reliance on anecdotal evidence is the weakest form of evidence that you can cite? You need to up your quality.
Okay, so now that you've said
otherwise,
that,
we're going to laugh at you.
Now that Nathan said 8 times that the plane and all this stuff, I'm going to explain what's going on with the plane.
Kosho.
In about 10 seconds.
Nobody's talking to you, Kosho.
You couldn't explain
what Nathan was saying about the plane.
You don't need to explain either
the Earth
Coriolis
spinning
eastward.
Everything or nothing.
You're never going to.
I mean, if you guys don't want it, it's like you guys want you don't want the answer. You just don't want anybody.
Kosho, the problem is Riley was talking to the other
people. Everyone stop rumpusing Kosho, please.
Taking
Hello.
people's money because they believe in the flat earth.
Including this dude. Right, go ahead, Kosho.
That's all this show is.
Yeah, this man's just ad-homming the crap out of me. Hello. Go ahead, Kosho.
All right, simply, when the plane's moving, if let's say the plane's going westward, the Earth's moving eastward. As I said, when the plane gets off the ground, we'll even make it simpler to say a helicopter. When the helicopter gets off the ground, it's moving at the tangential velocity of the Earth, 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. That's just true. Now, it's confusing if you tell your listeners that it's moving backwards and has to go an extra, speed, because it doesn't have to. It's relative. The Earth is stationary in the reference frame of the helicopter.
So what you're saying?
So as it goes,
sorry, just to summarise, Joe Kosho, so I understand then. Fair enough. If you're in a helicopter and you take off, what you're saying is the helicopter will remain hovering in a stationary position because it's being dragged along with the Earth and atmosphere travelling as one. It's retaining the tangential velocity, therefore you don't see any deviation.
If it's traveling,
It's the same when you're sat in a car.
Mate, nobody was
right?
talking to you.
And the
Mate,
car's traveling at 80
excuse me.
miles an hour,
Excuse
and
me,
you
I'm
throw
talking to
something
somebody
up in the
else.
car, it
I don't
doesn't
want to have to
stick to
eject
the
you, my
back of the
friend.
fucking car, 'cause the
Excuse
car's
me,
traveling
nobody's
80
talking
miles
to
an
you.
hour, does it?
You're
No,
disrupting the
everything in
conversation
car
between me
is
and
traveling
Kosho.
at the same
We're having
speed.
a
is it,
pleasant
Nathan?
conversation. All right,
Who
I'm
is
gonna have to just end his
You're not gonna
time here.
understand.
Who is
Okay,
it?
Highland 3 or
let's try that
80.
again.
Yeah,
So,
there we go.
Kosho, what you're
If it's
saying is
traveling at a tangential
the helicopter
velocity,
retains the tangential velocity of Earth, so it takes off and just hovers above the ground where it took off from because it's retained the velocity, correct?
Yeah, except for you're forgetting one crucial, important part is that the Earth is also moving that same 1,000 miles per hour.
Yeah,
So if
so
you're
you're
moving
saying they're
1,000
both
miles per hour in
moving
a
at the
helicopter
same
and
rate.
Earth is moving 1,000
Yes,
miles per hour in a
Kosho, I've
helicopter,
just
you're
summarised
below the
that.
helicopter.
You're saying a mission crucial detail. Yeah, just because I haven't left the... Okay, I'll summarise it again, Kosho. You have a non-inertial spinning reference frame that's rotating according to your rhetoric of a spinning ball Earth. And according to you, when a helicopter takes off, it retains the tangential velocity of that reference frame and goes up into the air, which is also going at the same rate as the ground below it. Correct?
Well, it's not the air that's not even relevant.
This is the not relevant.
The ground, it's not going to.
What the hell?
I'll summarise
Are
it
you
again for a
retarded?
third time
This is
because
true.
he
This is
doesn't
what
want
he
to
was
seem to
saying with the
concede
ball.
that that's what he's just said. So the helicopter takes off and essentially on a spinning ball Earth, it just hovers above the bit where it's taken off from, right?
Yeah, it's going 1,000 miles per hour when it left the ground, and it's going to continue to go at that 1,000 miles per hour when it gets off.
So in essence, on the spinning reference frame, it's doing the same thing in the air as the ground below it after it takes off. So it's moving at 1,000 miles an hour on the non-inertial reference frame, and when it takes off and leaves the non-inertial reference frame, it's still doing 1,000 miles an hour, and the ground below it's still doing 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, and they're not showing any deviation, not demonstrating any Coriolis effect as he rumpusses this conclusion. Yeah, so if the helicopter takes off and doesn't move from the inertial reference frame, then it's not exhibiting Coriolis effect, is it, Kosho?
Well, that wasn't even describing Coriolis. We were talking.
No, it's not describing Coriolis because that's not exhibiting Coriolis. According to you, the helicopter's not exhibiting Coriolis.
What happens when you're in a plane?
Excuse me, now we're going to go from the helicopter to something else because I've absolutely raped this point. Yeah, you quick jump onto a plane. No, Kosho. According to you, the helicopter takes off on the non-inertial reference frame moving at 1,000 miles an hour. It takes off and doesn't move a smegging inch. The ground below it's still the exact same ground below it. Well, then it's not demonstrating any Coriolis effect, then, is it, Kosho?
Nathan, we weren't talking about Coriolis right
Oh, we weren't talking about Coriolis effect. I want to specifically talk about Coriolis effect. That's what he came in with. This is absolutely about Coriolis effect. But when we point out that his example doesn't have any, suddenly we're not talking about Coriolis effect. No, we're talking about what happens in reality. That's what a helicopter actually does. Because there isn't any Coriolis effect, is there?
I talked about Coriolis, and then I was clearing up what you said about planes.
Yeah, planes in relation to Coriolis effect. Yeah, I've just smashed you, mate. You've just been bent over a barrel and thoroughly buggered.
The problem is that you think that has.
Yeah,
a
you really destroyed yourself in here today, Kosho.
Scary part.
Did somebody
The
get
scary part is
Coriolis
you don't
right?
realize it.
Yeah,
Go
I'll
ahead,
summarise it
just
again
over
just for Kosho. He's demonstrating with his examples of whatever the hell he claims, it retaining the inertial frame of reference speed when it takes off, or Earth and atmosphere travelling as one, or magical pixies that carry it along with the frame of reference, that it needs to deviate from to have Coriolis. And it isn't deviating from it. He's making every single argument to tell us how it does not deviate. So he's arguing for not having a Coriolis. And when I point that out, he says we're not talking about Coriolis. Yeah, we are.
Man,
He's just rumpus the shit out of that for the audience's benefit. While I pointed out and summarised the conclusion where he was smashed, like every single fundy who ever comes here, ever, He's rumpused every word of it, talked through it so the Discord server couldn't hear a word of that. He thinks that by talking through every word I say, somehow it doesn't smash the point that when you inertial reference frames retaining the frame of reference speed after it leaves it, you don't have any deviation. And that's what Earth exhibits. We don't exhibit any deviation. The helicopter takes off and stays with the ground below it. No Coriolis effect. None. Zero. Nada. You don't have any Earth-based Coriolis effect. To have a Coriolis effect on Earth, that helicopter would have to drift. The Earth would have to move underneath it. But it doesn't move underneath it, does it? You've not got an Earth-based Coriolis effect. The helicopter does not deviate. We don't experience any drift. For the guy who thinks his mate with a bullet is having to adapt to the Earth turning underneath, ask yourself this, man with bullet mate. Why isn't it drifting under the helicopter? Why is this other guy explaining why it doesn't drift?
I may have a solution.
Owen, that's not you. The guy, the asshole. That's who I'm asking. The guy saying, my mate says bullets are drifting. Well, really, Kosho here saying helicopters don't drift.
I must have missed that. Who was the sniper?
Sniper? No sniper.
Oh yeah, you missed that one, John.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah,
I was-
the sniper
I
came.
was
The
brushing-
guy came on and said his buddies in the
His buddy.
who's in the English special forces. I
Oh,
guess.
Highlander 80, you mean?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you
Well-
bring Mr. Highlander in here and he'll deal with me? Right?
Well, I was going to reference that because you palled around with snipers and you yourself shot 1,200, 1,300 foot shots, right?
Anyway,
13
I wanted to
13
provide a
to 15
potential
hang on,
solution.
Hang on, Arwen.
That's a no. Don't.
If I may.
Arwen's going to answer for me. Go ahead, Arwen.
Well, I have a potential solution for them, okay? Why do bullets display
Jeez.
this apparent Coriolis effect, yet helicopters and airplanes and everything do not? Well, maybe that's because bullets, for some mysterious reason, have an apparent Coriolis effect to them, which is probably some kind of deviation that they just misexplained as a Coriolis deviation, because it only seems to be working to guns and projectiles like that. So
They overcome it with, just to summarise that, they overcome it with powered flight. So what they're saying is, where I detail Coriolis on a roundabout and say you take your drone and launch it while you're rotating underneath it, what they're saying is because you've got a powered drone, it'll actually track along with the roundabout. That's what they're saying when they say powered flight. They're saying, oh, well, you've got a powered drone. Well, therefore, you don't see any Coriolis effect if it's got an engine on it. So you'll launch the drone from your hand on a roundabout, and it'll basically stay with you right in front of your face, just rotate with you, even though it's no longer attached to the roundabout. Basically, they're saying there is no Coriolis effect. You're not seeing it get further away and closer because you're rotating underneath. The planes don't exhibit that. Why? Oh, because they've got an engine, like the drone. Oh, right, you launch the drone and you do still see the effect. It would be more pronounced with a longer hang time. Yeah, you can be damn sure you'd notice it in a plane because it's in the air for longer and has a much longer period for the rotation of the Earth to take effect underneath it. Shout out to the shape of my world is XIII. He says, Mr. Oakley smashing the globe since 2016. 2015, actually. Thank you very much for the super chat.
Hey, I've got an anecdotal story.
I feel you
that'll
purposely,
debunk his anecdotal story.
didn't listen to my. You purposely ignored the words I said, even though I said simple,
Argument to
slow,
intent motive fallacy.
quick-
You can't say that. You're a double speaking moron, Kosho.
I did speak to your argument. You were telling us how the plane or helicopter in this example takes off and retains the spin of the Earth. For whatever reason, you're saying it's maintaining the inertial velocity that it had before it left the inertial frame of reference. Sorry, non-inertial frame, the spinning reference. So when it leaves the non-inertial spinning reference frame, you're saying it still has the speed and velocity of the non-inertial reference frame. So even though after I smashed this, you said we weren't talking about Coriolis, even though you're making it absolutely clear that I make it clear that there's a spinning reference frame in play. Right, oh no, it's definitely spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. I've got to get that point in. Yeah, spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, Kosho. Yeah, we get it. I'll make it plain. We're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, taking off, and then not experiencing a single smegging inch of deviation ever from any reference frame. Yeah, that would be a demonstration of having no Coriolis effect. I have listened to you, Kosho. You're just like George Netting. You don't understand what Coriolis is. if the helicopter takes off from the non-inertial spinning reference frame and doesn't experience any deviation, then there is no Coriolis, you stupid dick.
That's the same word, Nathan. The two reference frames. It's the same word. Let's see if you can.
Two reference frames. No, it took off, and the reference frame below it carried on at the same rate, according to you. That would be one reference frame, not two. You're describing one, like George with his atmosphere and Earth travelling as one. One reference frame.
Explicitly not what I said.
Yeah, you said Earth and atmosphere with a helicopter. Helicopter takes off, and it does not deviate because it retains the inertial velocity. I pointed out that if that was a plane, it would mean it's travelling backwards at 1,000 miles an hour. And you're like, no, it doesn't mean in relative terms it's moving backwards. It's just staying in the same position relative to the ground below. Well, if it's staying in the same position with the relative ground below not moving beneath it, there's no Coriolis!
Coriolis effect!
Start shaving, Kosho.
Yeah, get your razor out. Get your razor out, dumb fuck. Get your razor out and start shaving and pretending like you don't have to listen to my rebuttal that pisses in this face of any Coriolis being demonstrable on Earth with a helicopter that demonstrates no Coriolis. It takes off and apparently doesn't deviate at all, according to this guy.
Show that you're a man and see if you can challenge yourself. Because it's not that difficult,
This
Nathan.
is a family
The two
show.
reference frames I said were the two latitudes, the two speeds, the two tangential velocities of the Earth. The two different tangential velocities of the Earth.
That doesn't have
That when you're
anything to do
traveling
with
north
Coriolis.
to south to south and north. That was the two reference frames I spoke of.
That doesn't have anything to do with Coriolis effect.
It has everything to do with Coriolis, and
It
you know
doesn't.
that.
Zero. And my argument isn't about the Coriolis effect. It's about the causes of the Coriolis effect. So
Okay,
go on
that's
and
fine.
argue about
I
the Coriolis.
Don't know what your argument is at all. I was talking to
you
Nathan.
don't?
Well, I'll explain it.
Kosho, you don't know the argument. Nathan's explained it
I
to
don't know
you
an
a
argument that
thousand
he's having
times
with
on
somebody
this
else. No, I
episode
don't.
alone,
I know
and
the
you're just
conversation
going
I was having
on
with
and
Nathan
on.
that he's misinterpreting.
I'm not misinterpreting. To have Coriolis on Earth, you need two reference frames. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson explains for dumbos who tune into Twitter. He explains that the Earth rotated underneath the ball. Silence. Say it slower. Neil deGrasse Tyson explains it. You're going to tell me your high priest is wrong? He says the ball travels through the inertial reference frame and the Earth rotates underneath. Well, your helicopter's not exhibiting that. In your example, it's retaining the velocity.
Nathan, just because in your mind you understand it to mean one thing.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, not me, explains that a ball travels in a straight line and the Earth rotates underneath. Your example is to say that no, there's no deviation in a helicopter. It retains the velocity after it leaves the non-inertial reference frame and can just hover in midair, demonstrating no deviation. So Neil deGrasse Tyson, not you, a Dumbo, is saying that to have Coriolis, Earth's got to rotate underneath that helicopter that you said is stationary. So according to you, the helicopter's not exhibiting it because it's not having the Earth rotate underneath. That would be the necessary ingredients for Earth to have Coriolis. The Earth rotating underneath that helicopter example you gave.
It's spinning, Nathan.
It's rumpusing the shit out of me.
It's the changing of the latitudes.
No, that's not what... No, it's two references.
Can you cite that? Can you cite that, Kosho?
Yes, please.
Citation
Absolutely.
for that, please.
Hey, listen to me. If you ask me a
Because
question,
you keep saying, Kosho, you keep saying
Don't
this
say
bullshit.
The same thing you're gonna say
Cite
10
it,
times
please.
over and over again.
Let's get the
Because
claim
you're
clear.
repeating what I said incorrectly.
Let's get the claim clear.
Kosho.
He's claiming that
Traveling
the cause of
different
Coriolis
latitudes,
is
different
claiming...
speed.
I'm trying to clarify your point.
Yeah,
Kosho.
that's fine, you guys.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to clarify your point.
Listen,
You won't
though,
shut up.
because
Ever.
it makes sense if you understand.
He won't
it,
shut
but
up,
if
will
you
he?
repeat something that
He
somebody
just
else
keeps saying it won't make sense. It will make sense. It will make sense. He won't shut up. Rumpusing, that's what that's called. I'm trying to summarise your point.
So what do you call what you do when you're
Oh, right, so he just continues to
before you let
rumpus me.
someone speak again?
You've claimed that the cause of Coriolis is latitude lines. Not, as I have made plain, is a non-inertial spinning reference frame and an inertial reference frame. That is what you will get if you are trying to aim for Coriolis effect to be your outcome. You're saying latitude lines are the cause, and you're being asked to cite something that demonstrates that latitude conceptualizations cause Coriolis effect. Go.
That traveling through the latitudes, yeah, of course. The thing is, once I do this, you're not going to apologize. You're going to
No,
probably
no,
be a bigger
Kosho,
ass
there's
tomorrow.
no
We already
thing
know
is
what Wiki
nothing.
says.
Citation.
With your show.
Yeah, Kosho, we
I'll be back in
already
about 2
know what
minutes.
Wiki says in this regard.
Please go on. I'm
We
doing
already
some
know.
research.
We're waiting for you to go and get Wiki where it starts talking about Earth, so we can piss all over it. You think we don't have? You think we haven't already seen the Wiki entry in this regard? You're nuts.
Somebody's breathing down their mic. Stop it. Not breathing, but breathing down your mic.
Arwin.
Nathan, I posted something on Masterby. If you can put it on your screen, it's very pertinent to this point.
No, I don't know how to do that. If it's in Master B, did you say?
Yes.
Kosho, I hope you're getting your citation out, bro, because I don't want to hear this bullshit again.
Yeah,
Somebody's
I already
still
found it, dude.
breathing
So why don't you
down
be
their
quiet?
mic.
Somebody in the G Plus Hangout. Somebody in Hangouts is
Or
breathing
go ahead and
down
read
the
it
mic.
out loud if you'd like to for your audience.
No, you need to see. You need to see this, Kosho.
Is this 10th man thing with the? Oh, okay, it's with the field goal. Okay, give me a sec.
Oh, it's a lot more than the field goal. If you read the
I've
little
got it up,
article.
Nathan. If you want to just want to look at mine, just share mine.
Here we go. Yeah, it's up if you go to pause.
I've done it in Skype now.
Okay.
So yes, the audience can see it. You'll have to talk us through it though.
Yeah. So I pulled off the reference of Neil deGrasse Twitter, and he says a 50-yard goal in MetLife Stadium will deflect nearly 1/2 inch due to Earth's rotation. Meet the Coriolis force. And then I've got the football image. And then I saw something on the English newspaper called The Express, and they were saying cricket and horse racing and rowing. So Kosho, it's just not footballs. It's cricket, it's horse racing, it's airplanes, it's everything. And you're saying no.
Maybe the football was affected by latitude lines too, right, Kosho?
Hey, Chocolate Sand, be a man. I posted it for you. Read the first 2 sentences. Be a man. Instead of talking
Where
shit,
you posted it?
just go ahead and read
Where
it.
you posted it?
No
I
comment
posted it
on the high priest.
2
No
minutes.
comment on the English newspaper citing so-called pseudoscience forces that say there's an actual Coriolis effect that we could observe with all like a cricket game. Are you kidding me?
He was set to
That was
test to
probably
get
something you
citation
posted,
by
man.
Chocolate
I'd read
first, though. To be
the first
fair.
2 sentences of the thing.
Yeah, fair enough. I agree. I'm just going to shout out a super chat, Kosho, and then you can put him to task all you like. The shape of my world, XIII. Thank you very much for the super chat. King Nathan, hardly. Loving the Fires show. Claps. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. So, yeah, he's gone and got you a citation, Chocolate. Have you read it?
Yeah, I got it up. Hold on. 1 second.
Bruce. I'll keep the live show open just for this.
Here we go again.
All right, you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
All right, so the Coriolis effect, also known as the Coriolis force, refers to the apparent deflection of objects such as airplanes, wind, missiles, ocean currents, moving in a straight path relative to Earth's surface. Its strength is proportional to the speed of the Earth's rotation at different latitudes. Fantastic. Now, can you provide us some cowbell for that?
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, have a nice day, you
Have a nice
friggin'
day. According to
clown.
that, planes deviate with the Earth rotating underneath. According to that.
Yeah. Fantastic. Now,
your
now you
example-
got to prove it, Kosho.
Well, no,
Go
Kosho's
ahead.
example.
No, that's correct.
Kosho's example was a demonstration of no deviation. So his citation is backing what.
Him.
Yeah, it works against Kosho. We're saying to have Coriolis on Earth, the Earth must rotate underneath.
Maybe it's quantum Coriolis. Sometimes it actually.
Come on, you can lay here, but don't
sometimes it
jump all over me.
Hey,
Lay
Paul,
Paul,
go
you
on
got to
mute.
mute, Paul.
Oh, sorry.
Jeez.
I think
Yeah,
it was Paul.
Kosho.
I think it was Paul making the
You guys
background
have
noise.
it backwards.
So Kosho,
So
according to
what
that,
are we doing, Kosho?
Kosho, according to that, Earth rotates underneath planes and balls and everything else. So it should rotate underneath your helicopter example, right?
Yeah. Problems.
Kosho,
Nathan,
you
for the 15th time, I don't want to have to say this again. The helicopter was not an example of Coriolis. It was me correcting you, explaining Coriolis using a plane going east to west. I was telling you that it's not going to experience it. I was telling you that whenever you're traveling...
Sorry, just said it's not going to experience it. Your citation said it should.
You're traveling with it.
You just said it wouldn't experience it. My point is your citation says it should experience it. Are you dumb? You're dumb. That's my argument. That's my whole argument. Your explanation is one of non-experience of Coriolis. No deviation in the helicopter. Your citation that you've just gone and got says there should be a deviation because the Earth rotates underneath. Now, it's patently obvious to everybody there's never any deviation. Nothing's changing and deviating because Earth rotates underneath it. And your example exemplifies that. And he's just rumpusing the living crap out of me. Just rumpusing the crap out of me while I get to the conclusion. What an asshole. Your citation says your helicopter example should have the Earth rotating underneath. Your helicopter example being a solution to why planes don't deviate. So your citation says planes should deviate. Your helicopter example is why they don't. Now that's a contradiction in terms. They should deviate if the Earth rotates underneath, but they don't because it's not rotating.
Nathan,
on top of that, it doesn't say the latitudes are the cause of Coriolis.
It said you have to travel through latitudes. If you're
Maybe
hovering in the air, you're not traveling through
you have a
latitudes.
special anti-Coriolis device.
Define latitude.
Kosho, it doesn't say that the cause is the latitude.
Let Chocolate. Go ahead, Chocolate.
It doesn't say that the cause of the Coriolis are the latitudes. All it says is the strength is proportional to the speed of rotation at different latitudes. Doesn't say anything about this being the cause, bro.
It tells you exactly what to look for.
So you just destroyed yourself. Thank you very much.
You can't even read.
You just destroyed yourself.
So to summarise, as I admirably pointed out right at the beginning of this little discussion between us and Kosho, the necessary ingredients to have a Coriolis effect on Earth is asserted in his citation. An assertion that the Earth rotates underneath helicopters, drones, planes, in the same way as you can see a drone in your hand seem to get closer and further away, seem to be travelling towards you and further away from you, when in reality it's stationary and you're rotating underneath. So to have Coriolis, you need Earth rotating underneath. What Kosho and George Netanyahu try and double-speak their audiences, and in this case my audience, around with, is the idea that it retains the velocity of the non-inertial reference frame. In other words, demonstrating no Coriolis. Why do they do this? Well, because we don't observe any Coriolis. You could literally jump in the air and have the Earth rotating underneath you. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson says, the ball's travelling through the air and the Earth's rotating underneath. Like Kosho's example that he gone and cited said.
I know what this is.
Nathan, can I
Nathan, when it says
continue for a few seconds more? In the same citation.
How does that make sense on a helicopter?
Kosho, shut up for a second. And the same citation further down says Coriolis effect definition. The Coriolis effect is an apparent effect, an illusion produced by a rotating frame of reference. Yeah.
Perfect. And with that, I'll say if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. However, if you're watching this live on the Nathan Oakley channel, then this is where we bid you farewell. I think there was one last super chat. Let's just have a quick check. Yes, there was. Shout out to Awaken Narrative. Nathan, they can't keep a lie straight. Smashed. Indeedy do. So yes, a huge massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. And of course, a massive thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this live show possible. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum if you want to keep up to date with the community debate. As I say, stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley 1980. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!